everyone be on your best behavior. I feel I'm gonna try to do something else. When I spotlight myself, when I go back, it doesn't record me. I'm trying to get it to only record me, but when I go back to the gallery view so I can see all of y'all, it also goes back to the gallery view, which is pretty silly, but whatever. I'm over it. So happy, what day is it today? It's Tuesday. We've been doing these calls for 2 years now, and I still forget what day we do them on. It's Tuesday. It's fine. I've never missed a call, except if I was out of town. We're going to talk a little bit about stress, because I think stress gets a bad rap. So I found a pretty cool article that was kind of picking through some helpful tips and tricks or knowledge behind stress. Because I think a lot of times we say, "Oh, I'm stressed out." And that's why I'm not seeing progress, or I'm stressed out. That's why I'm not losing weight, or I'm stressed out, fill in the blank, right? We just blame stress. So Katie and I were talking before we started recording about like we are busy, we like to work, whether it's for church or whether it's for work or whether it's for ourselves, right? And it kind of like that's kind of like brings us our purpose maybe in life, brings us our joy, brings us like our like I have to be doing something. And so that is a healthy stress, right? And so that is something that we always forget about is that we do have forms of healthy stress. Not all stress is bad. Too much stress is bad, but also too little stress is bad. So too little stress would be kind of like wake up and don't know your purpose, have nothing to do, could literally lay around all day and no one would ask you any questions and you would have like you wouldn't get behind on anything. Like it would be like super under stimulated, just like nothing to worry about in the world. That is bad. And then the opposite end of the spectrum was we have so much going on, we're gonna like crash and burn or burn out, or whatever the case may be, right? It's like we have so much going on that it almost causes like the freeze mentality of I'm just not gonna do anything at all because I've got so much to do. And it's kind of like a panic. So not all stress is bad for you. We have to find our sweet spot. Now, the crazy thing about the sweet spot is it's different for everyone. I feel like a lot of times like people are like, oh, like it's like for Deidre, let's just say. Deidre's life is super crazy when her husband deploys, right? And so her husband is gone and she's a single parent pretty much, and she's still got to get to the gym and she's still got to work for Facts Over Fads and she's still got to get the kids from school and she's still got to feed them and make sure they don't die. And then they get pink eye and it's like, right? And so but Deidre's pretty calm, cool, and collected about it all, I think. At least that's how she comes off to me. But if you throw me in that same situation, like Joseph, I need you to pick up my kids. I need you to make sure you do all of your work for Facts or Fast. I need you to make sure you go to the gym. I would probably panic, right? So Deidre's sweet spot and environment is very different than mine, which is very different than Lauren's, very different than Betty's. And so we have to find our sweet spot. And we can't be afraid to push up a little bit. And how we push up is a mental mind game. And so we'll kind of talk about that here in a little bit, right? And so just make sure we start thinking about, we're going to go through some things here in a second, but make sure, what's up, Kalila? But make sure we go through some things and some thought processes around our stressors, right? And so we're going to talk about like this dial here in a second about stress. We're also going to talk about what's in our control, what's not in our control, and hopefully that helps as well, right? And so with the whole stress comment, and Kalila, we are talking about stress. Is stress the reason you're gaining weight? And I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I did talk about it. Uh, Maybe I did talk about it a couple weeks ago when I did the Camp Gladiator education call with you guys, and I kind of shared the PowerPoint and I showed y'all what else I talk about for the seminar for Camp Gladiator. But stress does not inherently cause you to gain weight. It's impossible. We have to overconsume calories in order to gain weight. And so stress in itself is just a hormone. And so hormones just make things happen within our body. But if there's no food or no calories around, then nothing can happen. And so the more than likely the problem is how we cope or deal with our stress. And so most of the time we do that through food or alcohol. And so if we're doing that through food or alcohol, or even sometimes shutting down and just being super inactive, lazy, binge watching Netflix, taking naps all day, whatever the case may be, that combination is a combination for weight gain. So it's not really the stress that was causing us to gain weight, it's how we cope with the stress that's causing us to weight gain. And so when you have and there's two types of stress, there's acute stress and chronic stress. And so acute stress is like, boo, I scared you. And your heart rate climbs really fast and your respirations are like, oh my goodness, I'm so out of breath, I'm going crazy, yada yada yada, all that stuff. Well, what actually happens is your body releases adrenaline. We call it epinephrine and norepinephrine when that happens. And so when your body releases that, those two hormones actually help pull sugar out of storage to get you ready to go. So it's like we need blood sugar now because you're scared and you're about to go fight or flight, right? And so your body needs sugar like you're about to do the most extreme workout in your entire life, which is also why well, some of this is also brain, but like if your kid was like underneath a car, like we always know, like parents have these extreme powers when their kids are in danger. It's mostly because of adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine pulling energy into the bloodstream, massive amounts of it for you to be able to really utilize it. And then also, again, part of it is mental, of where if we can clear your brain, if we can literally say nothing else in the world matters except lifting this car off of a loved one, you can probably lift the car. You're that strong. Your brain is that powerful. Now we try to manipulate that in sports by smelling salts or some sort of like some people slap each other like before they're going to do something. Anything to kind of clear your brain will help you perform better. We know that. But with pulling sugar into our bloodstream in a stressful situation to get us ready to go for fight or flight, it literally happens in like seconds. It's super fast. Now, the problem with adrenaline and epinephrine and norepinephrine is it's an appetite suppressant. And so we're really stressed out. Our heart is pounding, our respirations are going crazy. And what ends up happening is we're not hungry for a little bit. However, when those hormones go away, which adrenaline and norepinephrine, epinephrine, those are hormones, when they go away, it comes back with a vengeance. And so it's like, oh my goodness, I'm so hungry, I'm starving. We noticed this a lot in Afghanistan when like we would come back from a crazy scenario. We would all be like on the way back, we're like, oh my goodness, I'm not hungry at all. And then 30, 45 minutes later, we were all starving. Very, very crazy. And so your body just kind of like overcompensates after those hormones go away. So that's acute stress. And then chronic stress would be something like long term. So like every day, something's like nagging at you, and over time it really starts to wear you down. And so that is where we start to cope with those nagging situations, mostly through food or drink. So now remember that a big part of stress is your perception and how you cope with it. And so if chronic stress is not going to go anywhere anytime soon, then we have to change our perception of that stress. It's the only way that we're going to be able to get through it, and we're going to kind of come out on the other side positive, right? And so if Deidre stresses me out at work every day, but I have to work with her every day, I can either change my thought process of Deidre. I can either talk to Deidre and see if we can make this better, or I can figure out a way to whatever Deidre is doing isn't going to affect me, and realize that maybe it doesn't affect me. So, because a lot of times we spend a lot of time on things that actually don't affect you at all. It's just mostly like your emotional investment in something that's affecting you, but it's not affecting like your money or your time or your safety or your health. It literally has like no effect on you. It's just you thinking about it and thinking that it has an effect on you. That's the actual issue, right? And so most people who deal with chronic stress, about 60% all struggle with stress or emotional eating. And so that's pretty crazy. So it's literally like, hey, if you have some sort of chronic stress going on in your life, you're like 2/3 times more likely to cope through alcohol or food or whatever the case may be. Um, and so that's pretty crazy. So what we do, a long, long time ago, we did a call called Notice and Name. So we have to notice what's going on in our stressful life. What is the scenario that is causing this stress? And so again, going back to the Deidre example, it's like, oh, every day I have to work with Deidre. That is when I feel stressed out. So okay, I gotta notice it first. And so I have to like pinpoint what is causing the stress and then name it. It's working with Deidre, right? And so now we've kind of accepted it. And so then we have to pivot and we have to figure out a solution around it. Sometimes the solution, we'll kind of go through some dials here in a second, but oftentimes it feels like there's not a solution because we can't get out of the situation. And that's not the case, right? So it's not that the situation is causing us stress, it's how we're dealing with it. And so it's kind of important to think about like, okay, well, first I have to accept this thing. And could I prepare myself differently if I'm going to deal with this stress every single day? And so if I have to work with Deidre every single day, I've got to prepare myself. If I can prepare myself mentally by listening to music and having a really positive, drive into work, which is my house, then maybe that helps, right? Or could I change the work environment some way, somehow, to where maybe Deidre and I don't work so close together, or maybe that I'm not bored enough, or I'm not busy, so I don't have to spend as much time with Deidre. So if I'm always busy, well, then I don't have to deal with Deidre. Or again, could I consult with Deidre and say, hey, like I'm feeling kind of stressed out. I feel like you and I are on the same page. And I would love to get on the same page because there's something probably bothering me about the situation. So it's probably like one thing that we could always dive into and fix that one thing. So I'm like, Deidre, your toothbrush is in the drawer over there. Like that's really bothering me, right? And she's like, okay, what do you want me to do about it? And we start talking about solutions, right? And so that was a silly example because I don't care that her toothbrush is over there. But Deidre's like, oh my gosh, Joseph, you really care about my toothbrush? I don't. And so, but we have to handle that scenario. And that is an uncomfortable situation. But I guarantee you'll feel better after you have those conversations. Like it's a one-time awkward conversation. And I promise you that it gets better right after that. It's pretty crazy once you confront that scenario. Always pretty much a positive experience after that. Even if the conversation didn't go according to plan, you will feel better because now it's out in the open, which is pretty cool. All righty. So could we prepare ourselves and say, hey, I know that I'm going to see Deidre at 9 a.m. and I can put a time of day to it. I know, so 9 a.m. is when I'm going to start feeling stressed out, or noon is when I feel stressed out, or right before I leave. I was talking to Brandy earlier today. She's a teacher. Right before I leave school, like 50 things are going to pile up on my desk and I'm going to feel swamped. I'm going to feel over. I'm going to want to stay late, or I'm going to want to show up early, or I'm not going to want to come tomorrow. Right. And so could we pinpoint it down to a time of day? Could we pinpoint it down to like a person? Could we pinpoint it down to a conversation style? And so maybe it's like, maybe you're in finances and like every time we talk about finances, like that just, ooh, it really drives me crazy. I hate it. Right. And so we have to figure out what it is. And as soon as you can figure out what it is, that is when you start to change it. Right. And so a lot of us don't really know what it is. And so a lot of times we're like, Katie, you're annoying. And Katie would be like, well, why am I annoying? I'm like, I don't really know. It's just you. It's just like you. And then it's like, okay, well, like, but what? Like, so we never really dive into like the what. And so get really nitty gritty with whatever is bothering you, whatever is causing the stress. And then you can try to change it, or you can try to change how you perceive it. Right. And so changing it would be confronting the person or thing. Changing how you perceive it would be like, you know what? It's just a toothbrush, Deidre. Totally okay. It's not causing any harm. It's fine, right? But don't let it happen again. Something like that, right? And so always, we never, we never try to fix it. We always just say, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed. And no one ever tries to fix it. And then when we dive into the stress, like, well, what really stresses you about it? A lot of us still don't have a really good answer. We might think we have a good answer, but if you get challenged on your answer, and I've been challenged many times in my life about stress, I'm just like, oh, you know what? It's not really that bad. I thought it's not. So how do we get rid of stress? There's a couple things. One, we have to realize what we have control over and what we do not have control over. That is the toughest thing. And so a lot of times we think we can control other people. We can't. We think we can control, like, if we have kids and your and our schedule, we think we can do that. We can't. Like your home and work environment, can't control that. We can't control the weather, right? And so a lot of times that these things stress us out that we have no control over. The only things we have control over sounds kind of sad, but it's your mindset, it's your effort, and it's your actions, right? So it seems like very simple. Like, oh, that doesn't like sound good at all, right? My mindset sucks. I don't want to put any effort into this, and I don't want to do any action because I'm tired, right? Um, But those are the things that should actually really cause us stress, are the things that we have control over. If we don't have control over it, then we shouldn't really be stressing about it. And so making sure that we kind of have those conversations with ourselves. Again, talking to other people and talking to yourself equally as hard, depending on what the topic is. And so I think a piece of my evolvement, I don't think that's the right word, evolution, maybe is that a better word, was people just calling me out daily, just calling me out, talking about things I was doing or things I was saying or whatever to eventually make me better, is because that's how I took it. Now you could take that very negatively, but if you take it positively, and even if they mean it in a negative way, you can still take it positive and say, you know what, maybe I could change this and it would actually better me. Even though I don't like that person, I don't like how they approached me, I don't like how they said what they said, but maybe there was some truth behind it and maybe I can change that. So your actions, your mindset, your effort, really all you have to be worried about. Do the things that are within your power to do. And if you can't, then don't worry about it. We have to kind of learn to let go. And so I'm going to, if I can read this, go through these things that we can kind of dial up or dial down to help cope with stress. All righty. So a couple of these are silly. Sometimes the most honest people are the ones that don't like you. Sometimes the most honest. That's very true. Very true. Yeah, they don't like you. They're going to be super honest, right? Yes, 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 yes. The people who do like you probably gonna sugarcoat some stuff, right? Not really tell you like the full truth. Like, no, Katie, it's totally not your fault. You're fine, girl. Like, no, we're like, nah, actually, it's probably Katie's fault. Right. So get you some enemies. That's what Katie's saying. Go get you some enemies, and it's gonna make your life a lot better. Um, I'm just kidding. Okay, so we've got a couple things that we can do. And a lot of this is, one, do we have the accessibility to do it? Two, do we have the time to do it? So I want you to take this kind of with a grain of salt, but apply what applies to you and do what you can do. And if it doesn't apply to you, then don't worry, we got 10 things to go through. First one's pretty silly. 5 minutes snuggling with a pet. So if you're feeling stressed out, snuggle with a pet, right? Too bad Allie doesn't cuddle. Turd dog, never cuddles. She's like, she barely likes like you to pet her. And so it's kind of silly, but I will try. I'll force her. I will squeeze her and hold her tight. So cuddle with a pet if you got them. Number two would be 1 minute of deep breathing. All righty. So now I learned a really cool breathing technique called the box drill. If y'all have ever seen it, it's actually you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold the inhale for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds, and then you hold the exhale for 4 seconds. So it's like 4 seconds. Well, let's go. 4 seconds inhale, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds exhale, 4 seconds hold, four, and do it for a minute or two. And so, and I think they also said try to do it with your eyes closed. So the less stimulus that you can have while you're trying to do this breathing pattern, the better, right? And so really funny, Deidre, Lane, and I were at the conference today. We learned like some crazy different breathing techniques, and it was like pretty wild. And so super helpful, whether it was like the guy was trying to make us have a heart attack or the guy was trying to calm us down. Both exercises were like equally beneficial for those reasons, right? So breathing is so powerful. It's obviously something we take for granted. It's obviously something that we don't think much about. But when you slow down your breath count to, again, this box drill, it really kind of causes you to just think about everything. What's moving in your body? How do you feel? How's your heart rate? Because when you close your eyes and you start breathing, 4, 4, 4, 4, only one number to remember. That's 4. You really start to feel your heartbeat. And so I was like, oh my goodness, like my heart is like pounding, boom, boom, boom. So again, kind of making sure that you are paying attention to yourself while you're doing that. All righty. Now the third one says, okay, these are reptiles. They're not very snuggly. They're not. Don't snuggle with a reptile. Number 3, regular 5-minute breaks from work or fresh air or fresh sunlight. If you're in San Antonio, Texas, there was no fresh sunlight today. It was cold and rain. But a 5-minute break from work. And start a timer. Seems pretty silly, but start a timer. And so we know when we have to go back to work. And we can also value those 5 minutes a lot better. And so we kind of put parameters around our breaks and we value them a lot more. And so that's really exciting. Remember, I think back to recess. I don't even think they do recess anymore. But back in the day, they would literally tell us like, you have 30 minutes to go run it out. And like we were the most productive in 30 minutes ever, right? Because we had like a very hard stop time. So we like get outside, we know exactly what sport we're gonna play, we even know exactly who's gonna play, all this good stuff to make the most of the 30 minutes. So very, very similar situation. If you only have 5 minutes, make sure you make the most of it, right? Number four, after dinner, walk with a loved one each day and avoid multitasking. So funny. In my neighborhood, I see people walking all the time. And they're almost always both on their cell phone while they're walking. And so whether like one's talking on the phone or they're both scrolling, they're walking together, but they're not really walking together. And so I think avoid multitasking, that just means like put down your phone because that's pretty much our world revolve around our phone. Super tough. And I even do it like with Allie. Like I'll notice, like I'll take Allie for a walk and I'll be on my phone the entire time. And I'm like, I'm not even like really enjoying this walk. I'm just working from my phone. And I'm not paying attention to my dog at all. I'm just on my phone. So avoid multitasking and then establish a meditation practice, frequent hugs, walking meetings when possible. Okay. So little things that relax us, meditation practice, frequent hugs, walking meetings when possible. Now, some of us have a treadmill in our house. I've been on lots of meetings lately with CG people, and they're on these meetings on their treadmill. It's kind of distracting in the beginning, but then you just kind of like get used to their head like bobbing as they're walking. Very weird, but hey, it's tough to be frustrated when you're walking. It's like you're like releasing tension as you walk, and so any tension that is building up from the meeting, you almost like can't really do anything about it, and so it just kind of like goes away. It's like very silly, very weird, but also it really, really works. So going back to more activity, and then number six is 15 minutes of nature daily self-compassion practice. All right, so if it's 15 minutes outside, also self-compassion. Very tough. I'm probably the least compassionate person about myself, and so it's not the easiest thing for me to be like, hey, Joseph, you did a really good job today. I never have that conversation with myself. But being outside for 15 minutes definitely helpful. As long as the weather permits. And over the summertime, I used to take Allie to Frederick, no, not Frederick Park. Eisenhower, some park over there, 1604 Camp Bullis area, or Northwest Military. That one that's pet friendly, and we would go hiking. And so I wouldn't bring my phone, and so that was very helpful for me. I did that back like May, June, July, which was pretty exciting. And then number seven, mix of gentle and intense exercise. Drink alcohol moderately and mindfully. Mix of gentle and intense exercise. So whether that's walking, going back to number four, walking meetings, or whether that is like HIIT workouts or strength training or whatever the case may be. Now, I will tell you that if you are mentally unfocused, intense exercise is probably not the thing you want to do. So I would stay away from intense exercise if you're just like mentally you cannot focus. It's going to just it's not going to be intense even if you want it to be intense. But number two, you're just more inclined to hurt yourself if you're not really paying attention. And so those are those days where if you meet with someone, that's super helpful to get your mind off of it. If you're going by yourself, be careful. Or if you have a coach, let them know that you're mentally not into it to kind of keep a closer eye on you, right? So if you're by yourself, you don't have those options, just tone it back a little bit and go to more of a gentle exercise. Like the word gentle. I've never called exercise gentle, but this little paragraph says so. And then drinking alcohol moderately and mindfully. Um, don't drink your feelings. It never fixes the problem. But I think a lot of us will say, what's the phrase? I want to take the edge off. I just want to take the edge off. What is the amount of alcohol someone put in the chat box? What is the amount of alcohol you need, you specifically, there's no wrong answer, to take the edge off? We're going to wait on this one. Someone tell me. Ah, Katie, how much alcohol do you need to take the edge off? Deidre. No answers. Roughly 10 ounces of wine. Katie don't drink. Um, 10 ounces of wine, what's that, like 2 glasses? What's a 5 ounce pour? Yeah. So like 2 glasses. The problem with alcohol is I don't really know what the edge is. I don't really know like when I'm drinking, when I actually feel like the edge is gone. Um, and so that's what I'm kind of like to Lauren and Katie. Like, that's why I really don't drink anymore, unless like I'm on vacation or I'm out of town or things like that. Um, because taking the edge off, like in my world, doesn't really exist. There's not like an amount of alcohol that I could drink and I'd be like, oh, you know what? I feel better. Like it doesn't, I either just want more alcohol or I'm actually just like more in my feelings because alcohol gets you in your feelings. Um, and so I'm having these 7 ounces of Sprite or a glass of chocolate milk. Ooh, I cannot be mad if I'm drinking some chocolate milk. That is for sure. I cannot be mad if I'm drinking chocolate milk. So good. Um, but yeah, so I don't always, a lot of people cope with stress through alcohol. And if you actually like talk to them about it, it doesn't really make any sense at all. Because a lot of times like, their answers, I just need something to take the edge off. I just need something to take my mind off the situation. It probably doesn't do that. What really does it is probably the people you're around drinking with. And so you probably could have just had a very similar outcome if you were just around those people and not including alcohol. So I don't always necessarily agree with the whole alcohol thing. Now, if you want to drink alcohol, just drink alcohol because you want it. Totally okay. Um, Relaxing of my muscles. Okay, I can feel that. I kind of feel like drunk stumbling around, can't walk because my muscles don't work because I'm so drunk. I'm just kidding. I can understand that. And you know what's funny is like I know CBD gummies and oils and stuff are kind of taking over. I think the CBD kind of does a very similar thing as well. And so I can totally understand that. Now this one's very tough for me. Um, but it says unplug once a week, balance of scheduled productivity and spontaneity. So productivity, probably routine, and then spontaneity of, just want to be spontaneous. And so you have to have a healthy balance of that. Um, Unplugging once a week, and again, Katie and I were talking about it before we recorded. Like it doesn't happen to me. If I unplugged once a week, I would feel more stressed than less stress. And that's probably because I'm a control freak. Now, being a control freak, I should probably go to therapy. And figure out how to not become a control freak. That would be helpful. And Deidre was like, Joseph, you're not a control freak. Like, you don't even talk to me. Like, it's like, bye, Deidre, go do whatever you want. But I'm always watching. I'm always like watching things, or I'm always like checking in on things. And so even just that kind of peace of mind of watching or checking in on things is kind of what keeps my mind at ease. So unplugging for me doesn't really work very well. And then kind of balance of schedule, productivity, and spontaneity. I cannot say that word. Spontaneity. Um, I think I do that through very spontaneous trips to Mexico. Randomly, I'm like, oh, I'm going to book a trip to Mexico, and I just go do it. That's pretty spontaneous. Um, but sometimes spontaneity stresses people out, and so some people don't like it. So some people are like, nope, I'm a planner, and I got to plan everything. Okay, well, telling you to do something spontaneous is probably not going to help you. So make sure, again, this is a dial. You can kind of utilize it however best you see fit. There's not a one size fits all. Now, what's up, Kalila? Um, ooh, okay. The next one, very tough. No social media, counseling at least once a week, and engaging in a hobby. Everyone always asks me my hobbies, and I don't really have any. I work out, eat, I sleep. That's about it, Kalila. I don't have any hobbies outside of that. I don't really know. Some people read. I don't read, I listen, but I listen when I drive. Um, I don't crochet, I don't draw, I don't write. um, I don't really know what I do for hobbies. So this is really tough for me. And then no social media is also very tough as well. Um, Once a week. Oof, yeah, I don't know what that would be like, but maybe I should try it. Maybe I should try to unplug social media for a day. So I'm stressed out just thinking about it. I'm just kidding. I need to try it. And then last but not least, it says fill your days with joy, fresh air, fulfilling fresh air, fulfilling, relaxed job, quiet contemplation, and meditation and weekly massages. So I guess this is kind of like a buildup, right? And so fill your days with joy. That could be through snuggling a pet. That could be fresh air, fresh sunlight. So fresh air, fulfilling, relaxed job. And so some of our jobs aren't relaxed. And so we'll have to figure that one out. Quiet contemplation. So that's breathing, that's meditating, that's the massages and stuff like that. And then weekly massages. And so again, it's kind of like a dial. If snuggling a pet seems to get all of your stress out the window, great, cuddle that pet. If breathing helps, great, let's practice breathing. If we need to go for a walk after dinner every single day, great, let's go for a walk every day after dinner. If we need to do 15 minutes of outside, great, let's do 15 minutes of being outside. So I will take this image and I will put it, oh, I cannot read you guys. I'll put it in the Facebook group. And then you guys can kind of see the email. I'm gonna put it in the event. In the events. And so, actually, I think I gotta download it, but I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm gonna download it. So I'll put that image, and again, it's the dial image that I was just reading off of. So we all have that. Minimize. I'll do it later. Save image. All right. So the last thing, and then we'll all get out of here, is there a diet to help me reduce my stress? Good question. Put it in the chat box. Is there a specific diet that helps reduce your stress? Yes or no? I gotta go find where I found this picture from. Dang it. Y'all creating so much work. I'm not moving on until y'all answer the question. Take that. Oh, got it. Save image as the stress dial. It's called. No. Okay, someone I gotta answer. No one else. There's no diet that helps you reduce stress. What about like the keto diet or something like that? Does that help me reduce stress? Boom. Oh, what kind of post? I don't know why it's like things are not working. Okay, cool. It's in there. So it's in the event if y'all want to look at that stress dial. So very good. You're all very smart. There's no dial or there's no diet to help reduce stress. There's also no superior diet for anything we're looking for. So it says getting enough calories to cover your energy needs. Well, we've got you set at the right amount of calories to cover your energy needs, meeting macronutrients and micronutrient needs. So proteins, carbs, and fats, and then vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. And so we also have your macros set on your meal plan based on your needs. Drinking enough water, very, very important. Eating at regular times, whatever that means for you. My dinner is almost always past 8 p.m. That's just my regular. If I go to dinner earlier than that, I'm gonna be upset come 9 or 10 p.m. So I always eat a little bit later. That's my regular time for me. It might not be your regular time for you, but whatever that means for you, make sure you're eating at regular times. Consuming mostly minimally processed foods like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, and animal proteins, and dairy, right? So minimal processed foods also on your meal plan. Eating slowly and mindfully. And this is always a funny one because I don't know why, but every time I eat, I think it's a race. And I stop talking to everybody. And I just like, like everyone's like starts to eat and then all the conversation dies down and everyone's like, oh, the food must be really good because no one's talking. Right. That's me every time. And so, but there is so much power and control if you could eat slowly and continuously have conversation because that's going to also slow you down, right? And so that will allow your hunger and fullness hormones, leptin and ghrelin, to catch up, and it will help you not overeat. If everyone just puts their head down, and Thanksgiving is coming up, put your head down and you start shoveling food in your face, you're going to eat way more food than you want to, and then you're going to feel way more terribly after the fact than you wanted to. So eating slowly and mindfully, super duper helpful. And then enjoy your food and the company you share it with. So that's why we don't really control how you cook it. And so we always tell you guys, like, you can cook your food however you want, grill it, bake it, Instapot it, air fry it, whatever you want. You can also season and sauce it pretty much however you want. Which is why we give you a bunch of those seasonings and sauces files to change things up. So make sure you're enjoying your food. It tastes good. It's whatever texture you want it to be. And that's going to help you reduce your stress, right? Nobody likes to email that takes so long. That's so funny, Betty. I don't, yeah, I can't do it. That's very tough. But again, like it's so funny. Like everyone's like, oh, just like, like you connect with people so well. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm struggling with the same stuff y'all are struggling with. Like I struggle with everything the same thing. Like is because we're all connected. But Betty, I do not connect with you on that. I'm not a slow eater. I will like crush all of my food before you finish like half your plate. Um, and so but it's something that I need to work on. It's something that if I'm having like an overeating issue, then if I slow down, it would help me drastically. Alrighty. So quick little recap about stress. Not all stress is bad for you. We have good stress and bad stress. We have to find our sweet spot. Whatever that sweet spot is for you is very different than a sweet spot for someone else. We want to avoid being bored, but we also want to avoid being burnt out, right? So we have to find that happy medium between boredom and burnout. Um, and so then we need to start thinking about what our perception of stress actually is. So what are we perceiving to be stressful? What situations, what scenarios, what people, what conversations, whatever the case may be, and try to change those things first or cope with them differently. And so inherently, stress does not make us gain weight. It's how we cope with the stress that makes us gain weight. And then just know that acute stress, something that causes your heart rate to kind of skyrocket immediately, like a panic attack or something like that, or someone scares you. Adrenaline and epinephrine and norepinephrine are released, and it can temporarily suppress your appetite, but it's going to come back with a vengeance. And so if you do feel like you got like super worked up over something, just know that you might be really, really hungry in about 20, 30 minutes because of that situation in the past. All right. So just be ready and prepared to deal with that. And so, how can we stop stress eating? Again, about 60% of people deal with stress or emotional eating. And so, make sure that we are one, trying to control what we can control and not spending too much time and emotion and energy on things that are outside of our control. Mostly other people cannot control those turds no matter how much you want to. So make sure you realize that, hey, if you can't do anything about it and you've done all you can, it might just be time for you to not give up, but not pour into that scenario so much. And so we want to, and I'm not going to go through those 10 things again because I posted them in the Facebook group, but we just want to follow the meal plan as best as possible. So make sure we're eating our meal plan, do the calories, do the macros, do the micros, make sure that you are drinking enough water, make sure that we're eating at regular times of day, every day. So try to have your breakfast very similar times, lunch very similar times, dinner similar times, snacks similar times as well. Sticking to that routine is probably the most important thing. Minimally processed foods, totally okay because you don't have any on your meal plan. So just follow your meal plan and then eat slowly and mindfully. Very, very important. I'm not good at it, but definitely important. And then enjoying your food. So make sure if you are not a good cook, we're reaching out, trying to get some help there on how to cook better. The Facebook group is a really great spot. The recipe book is also a really great spot if you don't have a recipe book to get you some good food or some good ideas. So hopefully you enjoy it more and then you don't give up. Love it. All done. I'm going to unmute. I'm going to stop recording.